everyone. To sort of piggyback from the previous tutorial, we're going to be talking about the basic data structure in Python, which is a sequence. Now, in a sequence, the order of elements is important. And Python has several built-in sequences, and one of them from the last chapter is the tuple. And another type, which we'll be talking about today, well, right now actually, is a list. And that is basically, so we're talking about lists. And what's common in all sequences, in lists and tuples, is that every object that is a sequence has index elements. So we saw before, we actually used, hold on a sec, we actually used the following. We actually had this tup, and we had index of some sort, if you notice from the previous tutorial. And so that's index element. So each element can be accessed through this index. And these objects can also be sliced, like for example, ij, and concatenated with like adding on to it. So tuple equals tup plus some sort of 1, for example. You add 1 to that sequence. And repeated with multiplication, which you'll see again with lists in this tutorial. So, for example, repeated 3 times. So, a list in Python can be actually written in the following way. So, let's say list1 equals square brackets. You do square brackets for lists. 1 ABC 2 3. And if you notice, this is actually a tuple, which we'll actually mention in a little bit. So, and list can be printed out in the following way. You just print and you do the name of the list, and that's it, and you print it out. So I just said before, we talked about tuples. You can actually get that tuple because it's the element index in the second index place. So we go index 2 and you get that tuple. Now, since it's a tuple, we might want to access one of the elements inside that tuple. So first we have the index of where the tuple is located in the list, and then we have whichever element in the tuple for the next square brackets, as you can see. So let's say we want the 0th one, and we got 2 this time, which checks out here. And if you want to, now we can also add to this list by, for example, plus. In the element, it looks like this. So in square brackets, let's say we want to add 4 as a string, and then we build that. So we added 4 to the end of this list. And we can also multiply the amount of elements in the list. So we can say we want two copies of the entire list. So let's see. Oops. Alright, and we got, see, from at the end, we multiplied the same, we copied it for that many times, for this many times. And we also can use the membership operator like we did in tuples to check whether an element is there. So inside the list, so we say 2 in, for example, 2 in list 1. That basically is 2 located in this list, found in this list. And of course, it's not, as you can see here, remember, tuple is its own element, so it's not equal to 2, just so you know. We'd have to check the tuple itself if you want this too. Anyway, moving on, we can also compare lists, so we can do that in the following way. You just do list to list like we did tuple to tuple. So we did list, and then we have a manually written list, so ABC, and then 2 3 like we did before, and it's true because they're the same, which you can see here. We can also slice lists as we did with tuples, get a certain part of the list. So from the beginning, you don't have to write anything before the colon, then you write 2. So give me the first 2 elements in the list. That's what that means. And if you want to add to the list itself, add an element to the end of the list, that is, you can do the following. So here's our list, and we want to added to the end, an element to the end. So we have a function called append or append, whichever way you pronounce it, and the parameter is what you want to add to the end of the list, what is the element on the end of the list. Then we can also do the following way. So you take the index, not my list. You take the index of the whole length of the list. So give me on the end of the list, and then colon, and there's no end here. So, and then you add the element, and don't forget your square brackets in this case. And then finally, we print it out. So this is two ways to do it. This is basically this equivalent of this. Whichever one, it's your choice based on your code. So this pretty much concludes basic manipulation of lists and how we work with them and what they are. Next time we'll be doing three specific functions for lists. So we hope to see you next time.